This title is narrated with virtual voice, computer-generated narration for audiobooks. SAECULUM by Joshua Morris. Chapter 1. Shopping Spree. The midday sun hung high in the sky as Jacob Moreland's pickup truck sped into the packed parking lot of the Super Walmart of Marshall, Arkansas. It was hot and dry this time of year, July of 2028, and it had become normal for the past few years to see a constant large police presence at Walmart, the small town's main shopping venue. The nearby local homeless shelter had steadily grown over the past 4 years. First, to a homeless encampment, and then to a full-blown refugee shantytown in the small city park. Several years ago, this would have been unbelievable, but every small town in America that was within 200 miles of a major city had seen a human wave of desperate and broken city dwellers flee to the rural countryside, where they were at least closer to where the food was grown, and farther from where drug cartels ruled the streets. The longtime residents of Marshall had done their best to maintain a sense of normalcy, but Jacob knew that, unsurprisingly, they had now surpassed the breaking point. He parked his old Ram 1500 between an empty police car with 4 slashed tires and an overturned shopping cart, broken eggs, and a smashed bottle of pickles spilling out onto the pavement. He looked past the scared, scurrying shoppers and scanned the crazy eyes of drug addicts that were milling around. Jacob visually checked their hands and waistlines. Who was carrying a weapon, and who was feeling froggy today? He double-checked his concealed 9mm beneath his jacket. As usual, the tweakers could sense that he was dangerous, and he passed through the doors unmolested. The atmosphere inside was unusually vile, filled with a palpable tension that seemed to suffocate the aisles. Today was worse than usual. Surprisingly, there were no police at the door, and yelling could be heard at the back of one of the food aisles. Cashiers were closing up their drawers quickly and heading for the safe room at the customer service office. Desperation was etched in the faces of the throngs of people who had converged on the store, each driven by the same pressing need for food and basic necessities. The tweakers noticed that something was wrong also, and they began shouting and yelling for joy, heading for the pharmacy and the jewelry aisle. Simultaneously, normal shoppers with shocked faces looked first at the empty cashier stations, then at the mayhem in the back of the store, and then headed out the doors without paying, looks of guilt and desperation on their faces. Jacob headed back to the ammo section without hesitating, first grabbing a backpack from the outdoor goods section. Being a survival homesteader, his family's larder had been overflowing for years, but one can never have too much ammo. Fortunately, Walmart had realized that they didn't have sufficient security measures to keep guns any longer, but Jacob arrived to find that a tweaker had already broken the glass door housing the ammunition. "A shipment just arrived for the pharmacy," he told the tweaker. "Head on out to the loading docks and get you some." "Have fun, buddy." "Dude, you're the best," replied the tweaker, stumbling off in search of pharmaceuticals, and leaving Jacob to enjoy his ammo shopping spree. On this day, it was not only the town of Marshall, but inflation had ravaged the entire American economy in recent months, turning into a full-blown depression. It had been triggered by a perfect storm of events: international turmoil, shortages of key resources, disruptions in supply chains, and a government desperately printing money in the form of stimulus checks. Prices had soared, and it felt as though the value of a dollar had dwindled into insignificance. Despite receiving 4 hefty stimulus checks in just the past year alone, Americans had watched helplessly as prices continued to rise, relentlessly eroding the purchasing power of not only stimulus money, but of all types of income. The promise of financial relief had turned into a cruel illusion, leaving many struggling to put food on the table and provide for their families. Those on fixed incomes or pensions were destitute overnight, and business owners were all suddenly operating at a loss. Virtually all small businesses closed their doors, and the government was taking unprecedented measures involving direct financial support and use of government assets to keep big box stores operating. As Jacob navigated the crowded store,
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.